right. I want to wish everyone a warm welcome and a good morning. And I want to welcome you all to the Aviation Industry Day. It's my privilege to be the first to welcome you here officially. And I just want to run through some basics of the day and what to expect. I want to run through the agenda a little bit and tell you how we're going to work it. And then we'll get started with the presentations. If you all look in your packets, you should see some cards like this. We want this to be an interactive experience for everybody. Our objective today is to make sure all of you have the best information we can provide about the great opportunities we have in the aviation field in Afghanistan. And to that end, we will be giving a series of briefings. As time permits during the briefings, or at the end of the briefings, we will take some questions. We will also have a more interactive format in the afternoon where we will have some panels and some open discussion. But if you have questions that you need answered, please record them on these cards, drop them off at the reception, and we'll make sure we either get to them during this event or we will answer them subsequently via email. You're going to see some folks around here that have green badges like this. These are primarily your FAA officials. We have people from a variety of high technical areas, including air traffic control and others here. They're here to help you with event logistics as well as to provide detailed information as far as what's going on in Afghanistan, what the program looks like, and what we're looking at going forward. So quickly through the agenda today. We arranged this to be as business-friendly as possible. I'm from the private sector myself, so I didn't want to overwhelm the audience with a lot of PowerPoint presentations. Basically, what we're looking at is two-hour sessions. This morning, you're going to learn some details about the contract opportunities upcoming. And in the afternoon, you will learn about the business climate in general in Afghanistan and some procedural stuff that you all need to be thinking about with respect to mobilizing into Afghanistan in the future. In between these two sectors, there's going to be networking opportunities. And I see the opportunity for you all to get together and get to know each other as being one of the most important objectives of this event. There's more than 50 companies represented here today. And there's a great opportunity for you all to see old friends. I saw a lot of reunions out here during the registration process. But also, I think as importantly, to meet new business colleagues. The set of opportunities we're going to be talking about today are large and complex. And I think building the right group of companies to address these is going to be one of the most important objectives and probably one of the largest challenges facing you all as you look at these opportunities. So take the opportunity to network. We'll have a long lunch, 2 hours, and we'll have 2 hours in the evening that we hope that you all will join us and take care of this important part of the objectives. Lunch today will be at the Revolving Restaurant up on the roof. It's a really nice venue. You get to see Dubai from all angles. And so please enjoy that, and we'll guide you in terms of how to get there at around noon. So that's the day today. I encourage you all to get to know each other, as I said before. Ask good questions, as I'm sure you will. And we just are awfully happy to see you all here today, and we really appreciate the efforts you all have made to come learn about the great opportunities we have in the aviation industry in Afghanistan. It's my privilege to introduce our first speaker today. He's a colleague and a good friend of mine. He is the transportation counselor from the embassy in Kabul, and he has got a long and illustrious history in the aviation industry. Mr. Mel Cintron.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. What you're participating in today is not another forum. It's not another opportunity for a contract. What you're participating in today is the opportunity of history. If there was ever a time that I would say, gee, I'd like to be an Afghan, this is the time. Because Afghanistan stands now at this crossroads of a very different future than it ever has before. This is what we're asking you to be part of. Now, I am here and I represent, obviously, Secretary of Transportation and the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, but my interactions are mainly with the Ministry of Transportation and Civil Aviation and those folks there. We're leading this right now because the transition is obviously going to be from what the U.S. and the NATO is doing to what the Afghans will be doing in the future. Let me start by saying this. The Afghan that you knew 10 years ago should not be the Afghan you expect to meet when you go there today. That is clear. The commitment of their personnel, of their government, has been incredible from my point of view in the last 7 months. There's folks from all over the world here today, different companies that work everywhere. But I am very encouraged by the presence today of the fact that Afghanistan is committed to this, and they think this is so serious that they have actually sent their delegation to participate in this. And I'm going to be talking about some of the things that have happened in Afghanistan, but I want to recognize the Afghan effort to do this, and in that support, we have today two very distinguished gentlemen. And if I could introduce them right now to just stand up so that you know who they are. The newly appointed Deputy Director General of the Future Independent Civil Aviation Authority of Afghanistan, current Deputy Minister, Captain Hamid Sair. So, and they've actually have quite a few folks participating here from the ministry and from the Future Independent CAA, and you will be able to interlace with them and have communications as things go on. I guess I could have written a speech, you know, and sit here, but to me, that would have meant that what I'm doing in Afghanistan is just a job. And I can tell you, for the last 7 months, after meeting and experiencing Afghans and the Afghanistan government, the commitment and the transformation that is going on, I don't need a speech. So I'm just going to tell you about some of my experiences and hopefully the things that you can expect. Before I came to Afghanistan, and here's what I heard. There's a lot of illiteracy. There's no capacity. People don't speak English or French or German or whatever. All these things. All these things. There's been no education for 30 years. There's no place to get people that are qualified, even if you wanted to hire people who are qualified. So when I got to Afghanistan the first day, I was very shocked that at the lowest possible level, I got to the airport, and as I'm waiting for my bag, at least 3 young Afghans came up to me and said, "Sir, can I help you and get your bag for you?" I said, "You speak perfect English." He says, "Yes, I'm in school." All 3 of them were in school. I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, when I graduate, I'm going to go to the university. I want to be an engineer. This guy wants to be this." That was my first impression. It was not an impression of ignorance. It was not an impression of where do you get people from. That was not my impression. When I got to working with the ministry, and trust me, I did a lot of reading. I read report after report after report of 10 years of what many would consider failure, inactivity, not stepping up to do what needed to be done. Because we have to recognize, I'm not here to just say the glass is half full. There are challenges, and you're going to hear about some of those, and you're going to ask questions about some of those. But the glass is not totally empty. The glass is half full. There are tremendous opportunities. There's tremendous professionals. You will meet some of them, and you'll have the opportunity to interact with them. What we found, or at least what I found, is a ministry that perhaps had not been provided the full opportunity to showcase its people and to showcase its professionalism and to showcase what is available and what Afghans can do. That is what we have been concentrating on. Not on the 30 years of things that didn't get done, not on the 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it is, that things haven't worked the way they have. I'm here to talk about what I've seen in the last 7 months. But more importantly than what I've seen, because as I have discussions with the minister and I have discussion with his deputy, the newly appointed Director General, the international community is no longer acceptant of Afghan saying, we will do this, we can do this. What the community expects from the donor community, and I'm sure from yourselves, is what have you done? Don't come here saying what you're going to do. Show us what you have done. And that approach has been taken, at least in the last 7 months that I've been there. And some of the things that have come to fruition that were either initiated by my predecessors or by predecessors in the ministry or whatever is, for example, the aviation law. The aviation law was signed, I believe, in November, and it was put out in January. What that aviation law established was an independent civil aviation authority within Afghanistan. Now, the first thing I heard is, oh, they'll never do it. Afghanistan will never do that. The ministry will never do it. Yet the ministry, right away, put together a transition committee for the development of that independent civil aviation authority. And they included personnel from us in the embassy, included NATO, included Germans and other folks to provide them input onto how they get a system that meets international standards so that their future aviation is comparable to any other aviation out there in the different countries. So they did that. They quickly established a structure that they wish to have for their independent CAA. They have named a Director General, and I believe that, Mr. Director, you have 30 days to submit a Tashkil personnel, budget, and resource requirements to the President so that that can be approved. So these are actions that are concrete actions that demonstrate where Afghanistan is heading, not where it has been. So as you look at these things and as you look at the challenges, please open your mind that what you are part of is history, not part of a continuation of something that had not worked or has not worked. That is not why you're here. You are here for certain opportunities that are going to be available. Additionally, I believe, in speaking with the director, after this there's going to be another aviation event that will be hosted by the Director General in Kabul for other aviation opportunities within Afghanistan. So I just wanted to use that as a small opening and encourage you to look at these things. But I'd also like to mention something about contracts and something that we discussed with the Afghans that we determined was not working. One of the concepts that was being used, and I looked at many contracts, every single one of them has a requirement for capacity building, for training Afghans. That is no longer interpreted the way it used to be interpreted. And the way it used to be interpreted is that, for example, in aviation security, if you wanted, a contractor would come in and train a few Afghans on how to pat people down. And they call that capacity building. Every time the contract changed, the contractor took their processes, their procedures, and everything else with them and left many Afghans who knew how to pat people down but did not know how to manage and establish an aviation system or aviation security system that was compliant with ICAO Annex 17. The contracts that you're going to be looking at and that they'll be talking about has a requirement that you will develop an Afghan-centric system so that when you leave, you have been part of the history of making Afghanistan a self-sustainable organization and country where they maintain international standards because you have helped them develop Afghan-centric systems. And why is this important? This is important because otherwise Afghanistan is going to be contracting for the rest of their history. Because what happens is if a contractor comes in and there is one standard, there's an ICAO standard, but every country has a different way of meeting that one standard. They have different processes and procedures of meeting that one standard. If today the Americans have the oversight of the airspace and they have their standard of meeting or their process for meeting the ICAO standard, and we as Afghans, let's say, start learning that, next year it goes to a German company. So now we have to forget this way of complying with the standard, and we have a new process, a new methodology of doing it. Next year it goes to the Australians. Now we got to do that. All this time, the Afghans don't have a system of their own. They say, this is our Afghan system that we implement and that we train and comply international standards with. This is part of the contracts that you will be looking at. This is part of what we hope to accomplish. Right now, you know, I don't want to speak for the Director General, but I'm sure we've discussed his vision. And he does have a pretty good vision, a pretty good strategy for how they're going to move forward. I think initially they have this contract mechanism that they're going to oversee. And I think in the future they'll probably go into a more regulatory overseer of service providers, you know, but right now we have to start where we have to start. But I want to commend the Afghan people. I want to commend the Ministry of Transport Civil Aviation. I want to thank the Honorable Director General, Captain Hamid, for being here, for having some of his staff here to support this event. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. Again, I welcome you here. I hope you have